Hi, this is Father Bill W. here in Austin, Texas, and welcome to the podcast. This is a series we're doing on two-way prayer, and I hope you have already visited our website. You can find it, just Google two-way prayer, and it's got information on how to do the practice, take some people through it, and lots of information that you can download so that you can begin doing this practice. If it's something that's helpful for you, we'd really love to hear from you. You can contact me at twowayprayer@gmail.com. We'd really love to hear from you and know how two-way prayer is working in your life. And if you have any questions or comments, we'd love to respond to those. So in this series, we're going a little bit deeper into the practice. Got some interviews with some folks. And the one that we're doing right now on this particular episode is about scripting. And it may not sound germane to two-way prayer, and yet it's really important. See, the practice is, I think it's, if you really kind of boil it down, it's doing steps 10, 11, and 12 and doing them really, really seriously. And in step 10, we're looking inside. We're trying to see what is it that's happening in my inner life that may be causing a disturbance in my prayer life, in my emotional life, in my social life. There's something blocking me. That certainly is my case. So I watch what it is that's going on inside, as well as what's going on outside. And that's really step 10, watching ourselves. And as one of the old timers said, if you don't watch, you don't know what the hell to pray for. And I found that kind of an eye opener, but so true. If I don't watch my life, then I don't know what to bring to God in prayer, and particularly in two-way prayer. So I watch in 10, I pray in 11, and then in step 12, I act. I receive the guidance. I meet the parts of me that need healing, bring them to God, and through that practice, hopefully we change. I know I've changed. I've been doing this thing for about 25 years, and it's made just a world of difference in my spiritual life as well as my emotional and work life. So hope you'll check in and let us hear from you. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll welcome our guest. Well, I'm here now with my good buddy Mike Falls, and Mike, welcome back. It's good to have you.
Thanks. Good to be here, Bill.
And Mike and I did a podcast episode couple of episodes ago on inner child work, on the kid. If you haven't listened to that, I invite you to go ahead and do that when you get a chance. But one of the things that we wanted to go a little bit deeper into is something that Mike calls scripting. And Mike, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what scripting is, and also why it's important regarding inner child work. Okay.
Okay, it sounds complicated, but it's very simple, and it's something that's absolutely universal. But it's ruling us. Scripts rule us, and we don't even know we're being ruled. And so they're pretty dangerous things if they're left unseen and buried. And but a script is like, it's a decision you made, a negative decision, usually as an early childhood process. The earlier it happened in your life, the more in depth and the more contaminated the script is with you. And it sticks with you your whole life. And it's a decision. The best way I could describe it is to give an example of my own
script
and how it happened. we're at a farm, living out on the farm, and my mother used to throw away vegetables, like that were kind of partially spoiled or didn't look too good anymore, in a pile outside the house. So I'm 5 years old, and I'm wandering outside around the house, and I look at this pile of vegetables, and there's this rutabaga that looked to me to be still edible to a 5-year-old. And my mother never knew what the word snack meant. It was mealtime, and you ate, and that was it. So I was always hungry. So I see this rutabaga there, and so it was big and looked pretty good to me. And part of it was rotten, but the other half looked pretty good. So I started chomping on this rutabaga, and my mother walks around the corner, and she sees me, and my mother is very mild-mannered. She's German by descent, so she very seldom gets carried away unless she has to. In this case, she had to. And she grabs the rutabaga out of my hand and looks at me with this horrible face and says, "What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you anyway? Eating that dirty, rotten rutabaga. There must be something the matter with you." Okay. Can anybody guess that there may be a script there someplace? So I'm looking up at her, and I'm looking down at the rutabaga, but I look inside. There's something the matter with me.
Yeah.
Because my 8-foot-tall mother.
She was that big, hey?
Yeah, she was that big.
Mine too.
And that powerful. Told me that there was something the matter with me. And so that was a script. I decided that there was something, and I can't let anybody see that there's something the matter with me. So I've got to plan out how to act, what to say. Don't let it, just as long as nobody could see that there was something the matter with me. So I tried to pattern my life after my older brothers and sisters, which was not too good a pattern to follow because they were all pretty wild and crazy. But I couldn't be myself because I was flawed.
Yeah.
That's a script. I'm flawed.
Yeah.
A companion thing was there that there was a lot of times there's companion scripts that happen with it. And the one I don't fit in was a companion script to that. So, and into the culture that I was in, thank God I didn't fit in to it. But a culture will force you to stay, to adapt to the culture rather than to be yourself. Because if you look inside and try to be yourself, there's something the matter with me. So you eliminate that.
Right.
So it's a horrible thing.
It's a trap.
It's
a real
trap. It's like a jail. Somebody puts you in jail, and you can't get out. And there's so you keep going back to that same old script again. And Bill, there's a story that I heard that really goes along with this. And I was watching TV one day. This back in the early 70s, and there was a little cartoon character that was called Jack in the Box. And this cartoon character was inside of this box. And in the first picture, he's going around the box and he's trying to find a way out of it. He's trapped in that box. And then he finally, after about the third or fourth, compartment of the cartoon, he gets a little opening in the corner and he pries it open. And pretty soon it's big enough for him to climb out. And he climbs out and he's free. And then he's jumping around and dancing and free. And all of a sudden he gets a little scared because he feels uncomfortable. he doesn't know what to do, and he didn't get his normal food that they presented in the box, and it was kind of comfortable in the box. He could go to sleep when he wanted to and whatever. And so anxiety starts to come in, and things of the world just don't really accept him like he is. And in the last block of the cartoon, it shows the character climbing back into the box again.
Yeah.
And I ended up with a big, big knot in my stomach just watching it.
Yeah.
Because I thought there was me.
Right.
There was me. But the companion quote, and I wish I knew where this quote came from, but John Bradshaw, my old buddy, told me this quote one time, and he said, "The bandaged, burnt finger returns to the fire."
Mm-hmm.
We're attracted to these old scripts.
Yeah.
That I was flawed. So I felt very comfortable staying safe with that script, in the box.
Right. You think that's where addictions come in also, Mike?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think, and this is what the University of Tennessee, they have an addiction curriculum there. And they discovered that all addictions start with childhood trauma. See, here's childhood trauma. But who would think it would come to a little deal when my mother says, "Something's the matter with you. What's the matter with you anyway?" Yeah. Who would ever imagine going back to that as, the cause of any kind of addiction or trauma? But it was traumatic, and I made that script decision, and then, good grief.
Yeah. I mean, we pretty much mess kids up by the time they're 7, 8.
Oh,
I mean, the job is done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you spend the rest of your life undoing it.
Yeah, trying to get out of the box.
Trying to get out of the box. Yeah.
Yeah. And it takes a great deal of work and courage to go back and find out what that trauma was. Everybody listening to this has got a script.
Yeah.
And so you're controlled in some ways by that script.
Yeah. You've got a list. Do you have the list there? We were looking at that a little earlier.
I made a list a long time ago. I used to do work with people, but something's wrong with me is at the top of the list I got here, Bill. Don't feel.
Feel. It's not safe to feel.
Nobody asked me in my childhood that I know of how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
I had an absentee father and a German mother. And so nobody asked me how I felt in my family. So don't ask for help or I'd be thought to be dumb.
Mm-hmm.
You never...
I'd be showing you what's inside.
I'd be showing you that I didn't know something.
Right. Can't have that.
A really prominent one is I'm not important. Yeah. And what I feel is not important because you've never been asked how you felt.
Right.
Then you're going to feel unimportant. So then you try to act it out and act like you're important.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people that get PhDs get one so they can feel important.
Right.
Not that they are they're passing on information rather than a lot of times real life stuff, I can't trust my judgment. I need excitement. It makes me forget about my script. So you're addicted to excitement, or you're addicted to sex, something that turns you on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't belong is a script. I'm no good. Don't tell what you feel. Be cautious, because they'll find out. I'm a failure. I'm alone. I can't trust anybody. I'll screw up. I'm unacceptable. I'm unwanted. I don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be perfect. Nobody cares for me. I have to please people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've had many good song and dances and have a wonderful series of jokes that I tell all over the place. I'm not okay. I avoid conflict. You get the idea. I mean, I'm sure I
Yeah.
could go on.
Yeah.
It's
And this is unconscious.
yeah. You make it at a very early decision, and then
you forget that you made it.
Right, and then you order your whole life complementing that. You in order to, in other words, you don't want anybody to see that I'm not important.
Right.
So then you do stuff that makes you look important. Something's the matter with me, and or don't feel I don't fit in. So what did I do? I was big and strong and fast, so I started playing football.
All the way up to the Dallas Cowboys.
All the way up to the Dallas Cowboys.
Or all the way down, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, and here I was a lineman, and I was a starting guard for the Dallas Cowboys in their first 2 years, And when I got to the top of that, there's an old song by Peggy Lee. Is that all there is to making it to the top of the football world?
Mm.
I don't know if you've ever heard that song or not, but it's a very haunting song.
Yeah.
But after you get what you want, that was Marilyn Monroe's theme song, by the way. After you get what you want, you don't want it. After I got to the top of the football world, is that all there is? I was still, my script was still there.
And you, the real you, never got to the top.
No, hell no.
Yeah, it was a phony. It was a phony who climbed that.
Yeah, I was wanting people to think how tough I was.
Right.
So they couldn't see how weak I was.
Yeah.
And how sensitive I was.
Right. Yeah.
You're just sensitive about everything, Mickey.
Right.
Right. Yeah, I'm supposed to be sensitive. I'm an NF in the typology.
Right.
But who I really was, I was afraid to ever, I didn't know who I was, so how could I tell people who I was?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a vicious kind of cycle. But the problem is when you compensate for that, and then you develop a personality that's not you. And you were telling me a little while ago about how you kind of had when you ran the drug program, is that you had to be tough, and you couldn't be nice or whatever. To get things done, you need to do it.
Yeah, there was a lot of chaos in my family, and my father was alcoholic, and he was abusive, and he would break up furniture in the house. And I had a sister, an older sister, several years older, who later became alcoholic, as did my other sister. All three of us kids became alcoholics. But she would wreck the house. She would wreck it. She would tear up things. She would destroy things. And then she'd leave the house. And my job was to clean up the mess. And for God's sakes, don't let the old man know what happened. So you better clean it up really, really good. And the script that I got out of that is chaos is going to break loose any minute. And I have to be on guard for that. So inside of me, there's a driving force that I have to be watchful for what's going to go wrong, So the real inability to relax, to chill out, But then when I found alcohol, there was an answer to that. I could go to that place that was forbidden for me to go to, like the guy getting out of the box. I could get out of that box and I could dance. And I would get drunk and dance. You ask me to dance when I'm not drinking, it's like foreign. But somehow that just opens up those avenues that I can then go down. I remember not too long ago I was with a group of young guys, and I was asking them, what is it that alcohol or drugs offers you? what is it that it sets free? Like when you're stepping out of that box. And man, they started talking. And I can do this, and I can do that, and I can be this, and I can boom, boom, boom. And you could feel the energy in the room that had just been really quiet and still.
Yeah.
Now, okay, you mean I can really talk about what's going on inside of me in my connection to my addiction? Yeah, you can. You better.
I recalled an old lyric poem from my past and my family. And come to find out, you helped me find out the derivation of this it's an old Irish lyric that goes way back. And it's a little story about a mouse. And it goes something like this, is what you're talking about. And it goes, liquor was spilled on the barroom floor, and the joint was closed for the night. And a little brown mouse crawled out of his hole, and he sat in the pale moonlight. He lapped up all the liquor on the barroom floor as on his haunches he sat. And all night long you could hear him roar, bring on the goddamn cat. So, I mean, that's what booze does.
That's what it does.
It kind of takes you out of that script momentarily.
Oh, yeah.
But, of course, it comes back.
It comes back.
Unless you deal with it.
Yeah, it comes back with unbelievable guilt and shame. It almost gets compounded over time. But
if it's not attended to, it grows.
Yes.
Yeah, the insecurity and the whatever, the not okayness grows until you go back and embrace it,
Yeah. So you have to go back. And so what are some of the steps in going back, would you say? How do you tackle this thing?
Well, there's that wounded kid inside of everybody. And
he or she knows.
Right. And the thing is, this little kid that's inside of you, that's made this script, he's got your soul.
Yeah.
You're programmed. And what I've come to discover, that, you're born with your DNA, but you're born with a psychological DNA as well. That's you're programmed to begin, but the programming is all underneath and covered up by this script and can't get out of there. Okay.
Yeah. And some of these scripts, Mike, can really go back in families too, can't they?
Yeah.
You're talking about genetically.
Sure.
Yeah.
See, and I know my mother was told that there was something the matter with her.
With her.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You understand?
She's just passing it on.
You're
passing on the goodies.
It on. Yeah. It's like, you need to get your head examined was another one of her favorite sayings, but I'm sure that all that stuff is passed on. But so your DNA, your soul, who you are.
Right.
And we even know, if you're familiar at all with, you are, with Carl Jung's typology. And he has, you can buy a book called Please Understand Me. And it's all laid out for you as to kind of, we're all different. We're programmed differently, psychologically and DNA. And it's all right there. So, but the real Bill and the real Mike is in the hands of that kid. Yeah. And we need to go back into that room or out to the side of the house and on the farm. And we got to pick up that kid and say, listen, your mom told you this, but you're beautiful. Yeah. You're a beautiful kid. And I love who you are. So we're going to team up. And there's where I think your two-way prayer comes in some way, is those two parts have got to get together.
That's right.
You're the only one that can do this.
That's right.
I can't go in and rescue your kid.
No, sometimes in my two-way prayer, I will be writing to Jesus and I'll say, blah, blah, blah. This is going on. That's going on. And I get the immediate response from him, don't talk to me, go talk to your kid.
There you go.
Go talk to your kid, because that's where the healing is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be vicarious.
Yeah.
That's the work that I have to do, is to go in there and meet that kid.
It can never come from the outside.
Yeah.
See, I mean, people think you're going to become a millionaire or make all this money, and then you're going to have all this power, and then you'll go out, you'll just be the bigger asshole out there in the world, and that kid will just, like it in some ways, the power, but he really wants to be himself. And nothing is going to change that from the outside. It's between you, your adult you, and you. Yeah. And you got to go in there and relate with that kid. Now doing the work of that is it's difficult at first, and I showed a little bit in the last episode when I read the connection between this young lady and her kid. And but it's a beautiful undertaking. But you've got to go in and find out what that kid is feeling, what he wants, get his idea on everything. Anytime you're upset, anytime you feel down, anytime you feel worthless, what's going on? Tell me what you're feeling.
Right. And that's the important piece about the two-way prayer. If people sit down and just try to do the prayer without going inside and honestly looking at yourself and seeing what's going on, and this in 12-step world is step 10. You watch yourself. And if you're not watching, you don't know what to pray for. But if you are watching, then you're catching these scripts. You're catching these shadow parts of myself that are coming up. There's a rager in there. There's a worrier in there. There's an addict in there. There are all of these different parts that take control of me. They literally do.
That's what a script does.
Yeah, yes. I used to say, well, I have anger, and more now it's, well, anger has me.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot more accurate. That there's something that is taking over, and you say my soul, and that's right. And so this is the two-way prayer is really soul work. So it's watching yourself, watching inside what's going on, what are the feelings, the emotions that are happening to me, that it's safe to bring those up, and then once I have a sense of what it is, and it is overpowering, it's too much for me, then I turn to God in prayer and say, please help me. And oftentimes it's, we'll go back and dialogue with this part, or go dialogue with the kid.
Yeah, ask the kid what he's angry about.
What's going on?
What's angry? Yeah. See, it's so simple that we think it's got to be some earth-shattering deal.
Right.
And it's just a matter of it's like the corn that you leave when you go into the woods and not get lost are your feelings. They're the stepping stones. You little by little, you get there. But that's finding out the real you is what you really feel. It isn't what you think at all. See, people put too much emphasis on things, especially in today's world, the electronic world. Yeah. We think that everything is in our computer and everything, but it's not. The soul is not in the computer.
People don't even believe in the soul anymore.
I know it. I know it. But that's the sacred you. There's a sacred part of who you are. For who, the poet says, for who I am is me. That's why I came, and
I was reading just the other day that the poets were the earliest psychologists. It was safe for them to go to these places and talk about these things. Right. But we're afraid to go there.
Yeah. It's, there's the thing I was mentioning a little while ago when I was talking about the DNA. Think of a lie detector test. They can hook up to your body, and your body knows who you are.
Right.
I found this about in the book I read in the seminary of all places. It's called Love's Body. That your body knows more about who you are than your DNA than you do. So they can hook up to a lie detector test, and if you lie, it'll measure.
Mm-hmm.
That to me says something. I mean, it's like it's in every fiber of our hair, just like your DNA is.
Right.
It's who you are.
Yeah.
So you can't, if you go against your body, just think of what that does physiologically to you if you live a lie.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so it's and that's your soul is your definition of who you are. It's the goal of being a human being is not to be, we talked about last time, being pious or being nice or helping other people and all, even though that's a part of it.
It's all good stuff.
It's all good stuff. But the real goal, how about this, is to be real.
Mm-hmm.
Is to be the real Bill and for me to be the real Mike. And that's flawed in some ways. I can be a dumbass and just as quickly as I can be a nice ass, and but see, it's owning it. When you own it and bring the biggest part of me is that I'm a caring, loving human being,
Mm-hmm.
But I've got all these crazy ass parts in there, And my wife tells me, I love that about you because you free me to be my crazy ass self.
Mm-hmm.
And she finds that to be a very spiritual thing. See, and I go, yippee, I don't have to try to be somebody else. But realness is what really connects people with people. It's not being somebody else or memorizing Bible verses or not baking a cake for a gay couple.
Right.
You dumb fool.
Right.
I mean, how dumb can that be? Can you imagine Jesus if he was a baker, not baking a cake because two people were loving one another and they wanted to bond?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Mike, once again, I thank you for coming by and sharing some of this wisdom with us. That inner world is it's where it's at, and it's where the prayer is at as well. So maybe do some more sessions in our next series on some shadow work. I'd like to dig into that.
What I'd like to do maybe next time is to teach you how to get to that script and to heal it.
Okay. Well, we will definitely dig into that one some more.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it a lot.